10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Drag racing fans, are you not entertained yet? Are we not living up to the name and what we've been talking about here on the Competition Plus Power Hour? You wanted more big shows? We brought big shows. What more can we do? So much to talk about here on the Competition Plus Power Hour, but I'm not alone. Not the only one that's on this show. I've got a co-host. And for some reason here lately, I cannot seem to find him. I don't know where he's been. His seat's empty. What is really going on? Lee!
Sam!
What do you got on your head, man?
Man, I won this. I won something at a drag race. I don't believe it. It's been a long time. Long time. But Carabas, or however you say the county, which Concord, North Carolina resides in, hey, it's where racing lives, as the cap says. It's like a tire, okay? But it looks like an air cleaner from here. But it's my new hat. I like it.
Man, you're going to overheat with that air cleaner on your head. I don't think that looks more like a nice, big, all-star. I think it's like a 2604 or something is the part number, if I'm not mistaken. 4-inch air cleaner.
It's
all
huge.
right.
It's huge.
Hey, you know what? When all the dust settles and everything else like that, at least we know that you're still going to be thinking in your right mind, and I don't know. You got to tell all these people out here that are still hating on the NHRA and what drag racing is. You got to tell them to what? Eat broccoli. So what we learned.
Right.
All you haters out there.
Steve Johnson. He mentioned that several times over the weekend, too. He is definitely sticking with that. Look, Sam, take it away real quick and go single screen so I can actually get back in my chair after being on the ground for a moment. Okay?
Yeah. Oh, so we got to take it out because the old guy needs help, huh?
That's
not
right.
on you.
Wrong screen. There we go.
All right, so everybody, yes, my co-host Lee won something at a drag race. He says it's a tire, but it really, really, really looks like a air cleaner. I don't know if he's going to wear that the whole night, but the man wears shades. Who knows? Stan, what is up? You just got your tickets to Viejas, Vegas, the Sin City of them all. We hope to see you there. Should be a good time. I know, as it's saying right now, Bobby Bennett, the host, the man of Competition Plus, has a fairly large bill that he's going to have to pay when we go out to eat. Randy, what's up? What is up? Everybody's watching. Don, what's up, guys? There's a lot to talk about Stan. You were correct. Stan, you had this comment. There's a lot to talk about. We can talk about timing systems. We can talk about the ratings. Roger, what's going on? Lee, are you ready to come back on? I mean,
woo!
You ready to talk? Man, are you gonna spin that thing around your head all show or what? Is that the hat for tonight?
The writing is visible, but I'm gonna wear it tonight all the way through because we got a great show. We got Doug Foley coming on, my boss. And I do these type of things for him. I really do. There's times I wonder, and I wonder if he looks back on hiring me and he's like, that's the greatest mistake I've ever made. And now I've got him and I don't know what to do. There's just times I wonder. But we got Doug Foley on, and also, folks, now, first time ever, us trying this, but later on, it had to be pre-recorded. Steve Reintjes, the VP, Vice President of Broadcasting for the NHRA. We had a little bit over 30-minute interview with him. We're going to air that. So we're going to talk drag racing. We're going to have Doug Foley on. And then we got Steve Reintjes, that interview with him. And then we'll talk a little bit more drag racing after that. Looking forward to it all.
Lee, Lee, I'm just going to open it up. Everybody in the comment section right now, again, we thank you guys so much for what you guys are doing, coming on this show every Tuesday to hear me and Lee yak it up, give our personal opinions about racing topics, and about what we should do to continue to drive this sport that we all love forward. We want to know from you guys. We want to know from you guys, what is a topic of this week, this past week, that you want to dive into? I've seen some stuff on social media talking about, well, it doesn't matter the number of people that watch the show. Let's go to the demographics, because I can guarantee you it was only between, 40 and 70-year-olds that make over $80K a year. Doesn't matter. They were still watching it. Why does that matter? I get it. We want to reach more, but why are we hating when we have that much? Like, let's talk about the positive. You guys are always so negative. I tweeted out the other day, because I heard Brian Lone say it. It doesn't matter how many times Brittany Force qualifies number one. It matters what she does on game day. And that's not a shout out. That's not, calling anyone out. But Brian Lone said it. And I think that's true. It doesn't matter what you do in Q1, Q2, or Q3. It matters what you do when there's an E next to your name. And I'm not talking about Erica Enders, because I know how you feel about that, Lee. There's people talking about the timing. I want to talk about that. So much to talk about, so much to dive in. So first and foremost, we want to hear from you guys. Thank you to those out there that email us every week and let us know, how you feel, what you guys want to talk about. So Lee, I want you to take it away. Let's talk about some talking points, see what the people out there in the drag racing community want to dive into.
Well, we are definitely going to be talking about some of these points with Steve coming up, but wow, the best viewed NHRA drag race ever. I think of like Sandlot right now. Forever. But just ever. Wow. And you see the plan that, like, even Amanda Busick alluded to us way back, mentioning about that NFL lead-in, NFL lead-out. It worked. And you may wonder, well, why was there this like teaching and comparison moment of the NFL to NHRA drag racing? It's because I guarantee some fresh eyeballs were on our sport because of that NFL lead-in and lead-out. And that is a good thing. We might have picked up new fans. And later on, you'll hear this, but Sam, NHRA drag racing, at least on television, and we can talk about attendance a little later, to the actual event at the Carolina Nationals, but it went toe-to-toe with the Bristol Night Race, which is one of the world's top motorsporting events. I would say maybe even top 10. And yes, more people watched in prime time the Bristol Night Race. It was like 2.2 million average, but 1.5 million, that's not that far off when you start talking about the numbers and the pool that NHRA got. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, the Gator Nationals was an outstanding performance as well for the NHRA, with a NASCAR lead-in running over slightly just a bit. Folks, I truly think NHRA drag racing post-COVID, or getting out of COVID, is going to be a better league than it was pre-COVID.
For sure. Agree 100% with you there, Lee. I mean, people are going to say what they want. I mean, I think the show continues, like you said, coming in compared to the stick and ball sports, right? Football, racing, a little bit more football. You cannot just sit there and overlook these things. And this is the importance of, especially the conversation that we're going to play for you guys here later, with Steve, is the importance of what we are doing. The importance of what they're trying to do is create this community and culture that not just analyzes the football and not just analyzes, what's wrong with the situations. That we do need to talk about the positive. Yes, we do have a lot of change and a lot of different things that we want to see happen within the sport, but let's start with the small progress. Yes, we're trying to reach a different demographic. That's why Lee and I are doing a show. Like, we're two young guys. We like drag racing. Why can't we have this be the late night young guy show, young ladies show. It doesn't matter. But as long as you continue to try and drive the needle forward, as Wes Buck would say, beat to our own drum or anything like that, that's what it's all about. And, Lee and I, we add our own different flavor to it. And that's what we need. That's how we're going to reach the different people. That's how we're going to get more younger fans and some of the old fans that were into it, but like a different style. Everyone doesn't like the same style of coffee, but people drink it. That's what it comes down to. There's a question in here, though, Lee, for you. People want to know, Lee, where did you get the hat? Because I think they want one. I think you're going to bring the entire air cleaner hats in fashion for all the young kids out there. Everybody's going to be rocking one of those at the next race.
Right. It's going to be all the new rage at the next race. And it functions as two parts of a car, because right now it looks like an air cleaner, but woof, tire. All right. So where did I get this? Well, it was free. And it was free at the Where Racing Lives, Carabas County, however you say it, North Carolina. It has become such a great hub. Mooresville, just outside of the county, Race City, USA, Concord, North Carolina, where you actually have Charlotte Motor Speedway and the Charlotte Dirt Track and ZMAX Dragway. Motorsports racing lives there. There's other drag strips. There's other short tracks. So much happens there around motorsports. So maybe check out whereracinglives.com or Google that, and maybe you can find one. It was free. I played the game, got a business card, got a hat. I liked it. It was cool. And I rocked it Saturday.
Shout outs to Brian. He's a local guy that puts on a couple of drag races here in my community in the North Dakota area. Shout out to you, Brian, because I agree. With all the other stuff that's going around in the ball sports, we are seeing that motorsports is growing and like you said, in every type of way. And I agree with you. But then, just like we have the positive, Lee, we have the negative.
Well, now I can get Don's frustration here. It's personal, but Don, make sure you wait for the Steve Reintjes interview, because he answers your question directly of why that happens. And it's all has to do with live to tape. He breaks it down, because I had that question. I literally put it out there to him, like, why were we getting bumped for softball at times back in the ESPN days?
And I think at this point in the show, Lee, I think the placement of his, time to come on here, and even though his busy schedule and we had to do things and he was flexible with us, but I think the placement right now is really great for that interview with him, because it explains a lot of the questions that we all have of why this, or why can't we do this, or why aren't we doing that? And I think honestly, like, this is a perfect time to kind of dive into this kind of stuff, because there's so much controversy. There's so much that we're sitting here trying to explain, and we don't even know the true ins and outs about it. So now having him come on and talk about this and break it down, and the numbers and what they're trying to do and what the end goal is and what we have achieved in a time of uncertainty, really. Like, and I asked him that question, in 3 years, how do you feel about this? And so that interview, I really think is going to be great,
Yes.
Looking at that. But so much to talk about, Lee. We're not going to dive into that anymore. Lee, all KB final. Not what we expected, but was this final in Pro Stock set up for Greg Anderson, hometown track, hometown hero, to do what he needed to do?
Did you just use the term set up with all the controversy that we had this past week with the timing system? Did you just go there?
You caught that? I tried to skip over it. I tried to jump over that like I was a hurdler, but I'm just saying, hey, I get it. We all want to see history. We see it in stick and ball sport. Hey, Tom Brady's 2 passes away from breaking another record. Hey, let the guy break the record. Just don't let him score. Just gentleman's rule. I'm not saying that happened. I'm just saying.
I can remember
What's this?
I can remember Emmett having a little bit easy of a run when he broke that record. You know what? Kind of rolled and hopped up, and there was a ceremony right afterwards. I remember. No, man, look,
Tony Gwynn.
I do not think in any shape, form, or fashion there was a setup or there was a stage. I don't think that. Does it look like right now? Does it look like right now, from my perspective, that the wrong call was made? I'm going to say yes, but I don't understand everything about the timing system, and I don't understand everything about adding up the numbers. I don't. I admit that, and I think everyone else in here, we've got to admit that. But I hope if there was something done wrong, if something was foul on the NHRA's call, I hope we're moving to a point where the NHRA is going to be transparent enough to say, our bad. They might not be able to reverse anything. You can't go back and run those races. I get it. Who won? Won. Kyle Koretsky, and congratulations, Kyle. And folks, I've been saying it. He was going to win one this year, and we've been waiting for it, and he got it done. Kid Chaos, congratulations. Captain Chaos, congratulations. But, Sam, I hope whatever comes to this, that they can just at least say, our bad. Aaron, we're sorry. And I hope it's not just behind closed doors. I hope it's like a press release. We got it wrong. Yeah. This will be worked upon. We are going to get these issues resolved.
This is my question, Lee. Sitting here, watching it back. When we look at the video, or when I look at the video, I'm like, bro, okay, I'm going to watch this again. Bro, okay, processing. And I'm like, how does one, and you can't take that video as the gospel, right? I mean, I wasn't there. It didn't show the tree. All I'm saying is, when we look, if you're not there, if you're not in that situation, maybe there's something that we don't know. Maybe there's one piece of evidence that was left out. But until, like you said, a statement is made, or the review of this situation is filed, or however the process that's going to take for something to happen, until that, it's only speculation. So I think we, like you said, give it time, and hopefully NHRA comes out and says something about it, and we all live to see another day.
Right.
Peacefully.
And I think Stan brings up a good point. And I remember this. I remember watching live. He says, remember how long it took NHRA to award Steve Johnson his U.S. Nats when it was obvious he crossed first? It lifted the tire just right, and it didn't break the lights, didn't break the beams, and it gave the win to the other rider, though it was clear that Steve, by video, was first. And I really feel like possibly, and it's hard for me to say some of this, Sam, because me being there, I don't get to watch everything. I'm working for a team. In this case, with Foley Lewis Racing, I've got responsibilities with the team. I can't watch every round of racing, though I try to catch some of it. I've got to get a video recap with Doug or other things. But to wait for the replay, like I waited till about midnight to catch it on Fox Sports 1, and there was a little bit of an overplay of the boxing, kind of like Don mentioned, and I fell asleep. Not that it was boring, but it had been a long day. I'd been up for a while, and I caught maybe an hour and a half into it, and I watched and caught the part that I needed and wanted to catch. So it was kind of new to me waking up the next day, and there's all this controversy. And it seems like they at least made some decisions concerning Brittany and Steve that needed to be made quickly in the moment, where maybe they didn't do that with Aaron, possibly.
No, and I think that's too with different classes and different situations they dove into it. And like I said, it's all speculation. We don't know what goes down in those rooms behind those closed doors, right? We can only talk about maybe the little bit that we've heard, but we know how the rumor mill works, right? I mean, one person tells the next person. By the time it gets to you and I, or maybe, down the street before we actually hear about it, it's been changed 15 different times. And so I get it. There's two sides of it. There's the negative, where we have so many people just bashing this and bashing that. Go eat broccoli. That's what I'm going to tell you. You didn't hear last week, go back and watch last week and go eat broccoli. You want to continue to bash the sport. But in the good sense, if you look at the glass half full, we still have people on social media platforms driving the needle forward because they're talking drag racing. So whether the bad or the good, we still have to look at it and say, you know what? Even though I'm telling you to eat broccoli, continue to talk about it, because now the algorithm on social media is only going to continue to pull drag racing forward, or, this, which is going to put it in front of more people. So yes, there's two sides of this. There's the negative where we don't want to hear you guys continue to bash, and the negative. We get it. You're upset. You're frustrated. I understand that. But thank you for talking drag racing along with Lee and I, Wes Buck, Joe Costella, and everyone else that's doing it.
The most frustrating element with Aaron is, he's right there in the championship hunt. Even with what happened, he is still in the championship front. We did have an all KB final. What would it, we come into the what ifs. What if he did get past first round? And more than likely, it probably would have been a first round win. Nothing to discredit the individuals and the people in the other lane next to him. But Aaron Stanfield, that car has been running exceptionally well, and he's been driving it exceptionally well. It is a shame. This is all we can hope for now, Sam. Hope for transparency, and hope that you've got a sanctioning body that has matured and will just be open, honest, and clear about what happened and the way in which they're going to move forward and fix it. I am very glad, though, right now, Sam, that we are nowhere near where baseball is right now with their umps and what they're calling. That is absolutely atrocious right now in the world of baseball. Beyond that, Sam, I think there was some great racing on track and so many different storylines happening on track. You've had pedal fests again. You had a second-time winner that's a part-time team acting as spoiler in Top Fuel. You have arguably the greatest drag racer of all time, would have won a round to continue on and, continue to carry out a points lead, but doink, and hits a foam block. So much great racing and stories out of this Carolina Nationals. I do want to mention, and Jacob Edwards, he brings up Dan Fletcher. Thank you for reminding me, Jacob. And I'm going to have Dan Fletcher on my show Thursday night. Look, Dan Fletcher ties Frank Manzo. Wow. He's just got one more win to become the second period on the list. Like the only one else above is John Force. That's an insane number.
Lee, just like I told you when it came down to Greg Anderson's time, don't mention it. Don't mention it. It's like mentioning a shutout as a referee, because that's what I was doing this past weekend. That's why I have no beard. I do ref hockey during the winter. But as a referee, you go into the third period and it's 2-0. You don't mention the shutout, because then that's when the game gets tied 2-2 with a minute and a half left. You just don't do it. You don't mention the next win. You don't mention the shutout.
Sam, Dan has already dealt with that. When I first met Dan, he was one away from tying. And he had strutmasters.com on the car, so it was a car that I had the task to cover and get some news out there and have him on shows and things of that nature. And Dan's a very cool guy, very, very competitive individual. But it goes into, the back part of 2019, rolls into 2020, COVID hits, there's less national events. He's the competition, he'll tell you, is tougher than it ever has been in those ranks. It's taken him all this time to get that one win to tie Frank Manzo. And I hope for him he doesn't got to wait that long to break the record. He was fit to be tied on some cases for sure at some national events. But Dan, congratulations. Looking forward to having him on my show Thursday night between the Slicks, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do want to mention, Sam, and talk about, though the ratings were great, the attendance was not so great. And I can definitely say that it was not. Look, there's a lot of grandstands at ZMAX Dragway, but the attendance was not great on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It was compounded by such an early start, 10:30 a.m. for the TV. I understand why they did that, but people are so used to like showing up at noon. Sam, people have got to understand North Carolina, and everybody wants to say NASCAR country. I don't think it's so much NASCAR country, but you're in the midst of high school football. College football has just started up. And if you don't live in the Southeast, like college football, like there's some people that's all they live for is college football. Like they associate by their college football team and you know who you pull for. It's intense. And then you had the Bristol night race. I was talking with the guy on the line Monday for testing. He works for the NHRA, he travels, and he's on the line. I saw him there Sunday. He functions as the starter, like when the sportsmen's come up. I cannot recall his name, but he said there were people he knew that are drag racers that drag race at ZMAX, that show up for the national event at ZMAX, and they were at the Bristol night race. Don't compete with it. Move it. Do something.
I get that. And Lee, Stan, I understand that. But Stan, unless you're going to buy every ticket and hand it out to people, don't complain about it. I get it. We want the stands to be full, but there's other things going on, and we understand that. So unless you're going to sit there and promote it, help us out. Help the NHRA promote it. Every post on your Facebook page, on your YouTube page, if you want that place to be packed, that's all you should be talking about all week. When I wanted everyone to go to Indy, every post that was on Outlaw Performance ENT on any video I posted that week was about going to Indy. The only way you're going to help it is buy a ticket, buy 5 tickets and give them to your friend. Give them to someone that's never been to a race in that area. If you know someone, say, hey, man, I'm going to buy 5 tickets and I want you to take your 5 friends to this race so they can be there. You can ask a driver. We can ask Doug Foley later. We can ask anyone. Until you are going to do that, I can understand your frustration, but don't sit here and say pathetic every week, week in and week out, when you said it was pathetic at the zoo and the zoo was packed. We can't continue to do this. It does no good. All right, I'm done. Okay.
Now,
just saying.
I will say, and maybe Doug can give us some insight to this. I know in other sanctioning bodies, the job is not up to the sanctioning body to do the groundwork of promoting the event. Yeah, there can be national scopes, but sometimes it's upon the track to promote that event. And I do have to wonder, what was the groundwork in this particular event and trying to compete with everything that was going on? A lot of events were happening in the Charlotte area and just up the road. Again, look, the Bristol night ticket is not the ticket that it was, but it is still one of the best tickets in American motorsports, and it is just hard to compete with for sure. But
Lee,
I do hope they will take the time. I hope they take the time. Hey, look at that and go, we had a great TV, but let's figure out what we got to do for attendance.
Exactly. And this, you said it too. This time of the year, there's so much going on. Here's 2 different people. Boom. Why do some tracks get 2 races? I understand that. Yeah. Do we, what do we do? Okay, boom. And then you turn around, you have someone that says this. Well, usually it's a month early, and usually it's brutally hot. Like, so there's both sides. And Stan, I don't mean to jump down your throat about it, but I'm just saying, like, there's just so much negative and so much eat broccoli out there that I want to say to some people. But it's like, man, like, we're doing the best in that situation. Yes, maybe look at the situation and say, hey, there's 15 different things going on in this area this week. Maybe we shouldn't be there. But then does that change? Does that throw a screwdriver in the whole grand scheme of things? Like, now you've got to rearrange things because they've got, hey, this was planned on this day. There's a lot of stuff right now that's happening, especially this year, that's planned for last year for COVID, and they're fitting it in when they can. So take a second. Let's all have a deep breath. Let's all take a sip of Gatorade, water, whatever you like to drink. I don't know. And just think about it. We're still facing the effects of what last year did. We're still growing. We're still thriving. But yes, maybe we shouldn't have had that race that weekend. Things happen. There's other things going on, events around the world. But to sit here and knock the NHRA for a bad crowd, but yet the views were skyrocketed. So maybe they weren't there on purpose. Maybe they don't have the money to go, but they're watching. They're still watching. At the end of the day, it's what we want. You guys aren't here live with me and Lee, but you're still watching.
Fascinating weekend for the NHRA overall concerning TV, attendance, the racing, the lights, the controversy, the feel-good wins. What a fascinating weekend.
And what about Wilkerson getting hot when it's time to get hot? That man's playing hot potato out there with everyone. He knows when to turn it on. That's all I'm going to say.
Definitely. And look, I look forward to talking about that after we bring on Doug Foley and after we have the Steve Reintjes interview. Definitely let's talk a little bit of Wilk, Kyle Koretsky, Josh Hart, and dive in to the winners and recognize them. Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. Competition Plus Apparel, you can find some great swag on competitionplusapparel.com. Yes, for the show itself in connection with competitionplus.com, but also like you can get throwback Scotty Cannon material. After the break, we're going to have Doug Foley on, my boss. I had him on my show last week, and I worked with the team there over the weekend, and he's right here, and he's probably tired of hearing me, but we're bringing him on anyway right after this break.
Get your CompetitionPlus.com apparel today. Whether it's our nitro-burning funny car design or the vibrant door slammer design, we have the swag to show you are always in the know. Get yourself a hat too. And we know not everyone enjoys wearing a mask, but if you must wear one, at least wear a good-looking one. Check out the new CompetitionPlusApparel.com for the latest from the place where you have trusted for your news on the internet for over 2 decades.
Doug Foley.
How are you, gentlemen?
Doing great. Great.
I'm off my soapbox now, so I think we should have a better show.
You were definitely beating up on him a little bit. Jeez.
I mean, am I wrong though? Like, how do we win?
I agree. I mean, we don't want to be in a situation where motorsports may be down at times and we get on a rant, which I agree with you on the fact that if we rant about the negative, it's just going to continue making it worse. So I do agree on that. At times we should spend a little bit more time trying to figure out how do we fix it? How do we all contribute to being better? And Lee is good at that for as far as our team goes, his ability to be able to on social media and do all of those things to be able to promote, he's one of the few people that works for our team, but more importantly, really looks at the sport carefully. And if NHRA tweets something, he'll retweet it. He'll do whatever he can to give them some love. Doesn't always go, it's not always reciprocal, but at the same time, he does his part, not just for the team, but for the sport and his passion for motorsports. But, I was thinking about while you guys were talking, when I was, whether a kid or early in my career, when you went to any, C store within a week of the event, you saw so much, whatever signage, whatever you want to call it, buy a 6-pack of Coke and get this for free or whatever, or, buy this and get some race tickets. And you started seeing that, at least a week or 10 days in advance to be able to, which was good, promoted their product, of course, which, was a great tie-in for the race. But at the same time, it reminded people a week or 10 days out that these tickets are out there and this event is coming. And I don't know how many people I walk into, run into, on my construction site or wherever on Monday afterwards and realize after the fact that was the weekend of the race. A lot of people have things going on in their life, kids, ball games, you name it. And, they maybe NHRA drag racing isn't top of mind necessarily in their lives, but if they were reminded, or if that came up a little bit, more, whether it's advertising or whatever it be, stopping in the C-store and being reminded. But I mean, you couldn't go down Bruton Smith Boulevard 10 years ago when it first opened without being reminded that race was coming to town 10 days in advance. Now you don't see any of that. Absolutely none of it.
Well, Doug, your wife came into frame just a little bit. So when I got the moment and her coming into frame, I just want to say, Sheila, thank you for all you do. You do a great job. You're a great cook, and you are a barrel of fun and laughs, and appreciate for all you do for Foley Lewis Racing and the team. And thank you for everything, Sheila. Appreciate all the steaks and the concern of when I was doing keto of trying to have something keto.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she is standing right here, and I mean, she definitely plays the role of taking care of all the guys on the team and just making sure they're well fed and taken care of, and she's always concerned about everybody's well-being, and she's I'm lucky to have her. I will tell you that, because all that stuff she does for you guys on weekends, I get the pleasure of it all year round. So we definitely, she's a huge part of the team, and we appreciate her cooking, especially after a long day's work.
So Doug, tell us about the weekend. There's a lot to talk about, but tell us about your weekend, and I guess the ins and the outs of what it's like for you at the track.
Well, this weekend was unusual. We started literally exactly, a week ago today. We were, making a crew chief change. So it was an unusual week on trying to figure that out. We had the relationship with Aaron Brooks ready to move forward after that Dizzy Max race, but it got accelerated. So it was definitely an unusual race for us. We typically are very organized, prepared, and ready to go. Not that we weren't this time. My guys are great and they know what they're doing, and they prepared as much as they could. But we had, with a new crew chief, you don't know what they expect from us and what we're trying to accomplish. And but I mean, to be honest with you, I think it went fairly smooth. We had some hiccups on the first run. To go in depth a little bit, Aaron's used to running his fuel system off of pressure and our gallonage. I run it off of pressure. And so there's a little bit of a snafu first run on kind of where we should be on the fuel system. And it's kind of an unusual run. The motor is just a little lean, especially into burnout. And at that point, it kind of threw things off a little bit. But we got past that one and kind of figured it out. So around midnight that night, we kind of looked at some things. We usually don't put a lot of, attention towards the burnout. And after conversation and talking about where the fuel lever was and everything was, we kind of looked back and we realized, we were a little lean on the burnout, and it did some minor damage to a blower and a cylinder head. And we figured that out. We got past that. And, it was successful in consideration of what we were trying to do. Our goal with Aaron Brooks is long-term, looking at the end game and giving him the opportunity to build us a new chassis and get ready for 2022. So as far as what we did, I thought it was it was okay. I mean, we went out there, we went A to B. We didn't embarrass ourselves. We did have an incident, the third run, which is unusual for us. First time we've been shut off on the starting line in years. We're pretty good at making sure everything's cool, but there was a minor fuel leak, which would have caused a problem. So NHRA shut us off, which, you take losing the first run and the third run, it kind of hurt us a little bit on being able to qualify better. But like I says, our effort is all towards being a better team in the future. So I think we represented, ProTech and Griffin Insurance and Levitt and Premier Window Cleaning, all the people that invite to see, all the people that give us the dollars to go out there and represent them and compete. We think we did a fairly good job, and believe me, we have some good things for them coming up next year.
Well, speaking of sponsors, Stan wants to know if you brought a potential sponsor to the Sunday race and they saw the crowd size, would that have concerned you in relation to that? And I think you got a very interesting answer to that, because I would say, from what I could tell, we had pretty good sponsor relationships this weekend.
We actually did. It was a good weekend. I think as a team goes, you have to put your best foot forward. You can't rely on what the stands are like. You can't rely on some of that. You have to look at the person that you're trying to give results to, which for the most part this weekend was Griffin. It was a new relationship. They're a local insurance company. They have 7 different locations in the area. And, it was our debut with them. And it was our job to make sure that we could introduce relationships to them that can better their business and give them exposure. And they also have a great representative on site, which is really important, because it's not easy when you have a marketing partner that says, here's my name, here's my information, take the ball and run with it. But when they provide you somebody who can give you that information or teach you what we're supposed to be doing and how to look for that potential customer, that's 10 times more helpful, because they don't just have skin in the game in the financial aspect. They have skin in the game in trying to help you create those relationships and understand their product better, so we can 7 days a week for the entire off season make sure we give dividends to them. So we did have that. And you can't control the crowd situation. You can't. I know our TV numbers were good, which makes up for it a little bit. Coming right after football is always great. And it's a good segue into our sport and exposing our platform to different people. So you take what you got, you prepare well in advance to make sure you give them the exposure they deserve, and you'll typically have a pretty good outcome.
So as you move forward, you've done the Why Not Drag Racing campaign of trying to reach out to those bigger name companies and get them into drag racing and showing them exactly why they should be a part of this. And, you mentioned, a potential sponsor here tonight, but when you look at the grand scheme of things and talking to these people and saying, hey, this is what we want you to be a part of, that every ticket is a pit pass. If you send one of your people in, they can walk around and see everyone's cars, and that whole, demographic of everything that happens at a racetrack. Do a lot of people that are outside of our sport really understand all of that, or do they just see, maybe what we're giving them on TV, or that small glimpse that they may see?
Well, if you're not familiar with other versions of motorsports, you don't realize that in a lot of them, there's no access to seeing the teams. And I actually think that that's seeing the teams and being able to associate with the teams, what they're doing, all the work that goes through preparing this car and trying to have it back to the starting line in an hour and all of that. I think that pit pass that comes along with our sport is so valuable in giving that added value to our customer. And I think it's second to none in motorsports of what NHRA provides. And I think it is something that, I know the camera gets in there once in a while, but the ability for you to walk out of the stands right after a fuel session and be able to watch that particular team or any team service their car, and also see the variety of the big budget teams like the Napas all the way down to the Foley Lewises and the Leverages and all these teams that don't necessarily have all of the things that some of the bigger teams have, but we still go out there, we fight the fight, and we try and look at Josh Hart. Not that he doesn't have everything that's needed, but I'm saying is that's a team that's got a total of 12 or 14 races totally under their belt as a Top Fuel organization, and they got 2 wins. So that's the type of team that we strive to be next year, competitive. But I know I'm going off track a little bit, but yes, no, I do think that the added bonus of seeing these different teams with different sponsors, and some teams being all full-time employees and some teams being, volunteers, part-time employees, I think it's an added bonus you get to see in our sport that you don't get to see in other forms of motorsports.
And Doug, speaking of crew, I don't know if you have noticed it, but I do since I'm running the team's social media. But we have a celebrity on the team. We do. And it is not just a man. No, it is a bald head. I tell you, dude, every photo with Lee Pendleton that goes up and his bald head, it gets noticed and it gets more comments, it gets more attention than anything else. I'm telling you, man, it is strange. But look, talk to me about Lee and Lee Pendleton, not me, Lee Pendleton, and how long he's been out there. And he is a true guy that knows his craft and plies it well. Talk to me about him.
Well, 2 things. First of all, if we could get your hat on Lee, that would be a great combination. Okay. Plus, he had that look on his face. You caught a perfect picture there of Lee. He kind of looks like, are you sure you guys want me to work on this? Like, I ain't never done this before. He's got that look on his face like he's slightly confused there. But we love Lee. He's been with our team on 3 or 4 different occasions. When he was in between, maybe working on one of the larger teams or whatever. But Lee's a good guy. He's been with us for many years. Great personality, great mechanic, great cylinder head guy. And, and Lee will understand this, meaning you, Lee, is that we are truly a family. If you come into our pit area, it truly is us kidding around. I mean, I'm not saying we're not serious about what we're doing, but at the same time, we try to enjoy the weekend. We're not fortunate enough to get 22 weekends a year at this. So when we're out there, myself, Tim, like you said, Sheila takes care of all the guys, just everybody who's on the team, we are family. You'll never hear anybody ever raise their voice. You'll never hear any arguing. We kid around. We try and enjoy the sport for everything it has to be, which, for us, it's the camaraderie with everybody. We all have day jobs and we're all working, and it's a great opportunity for us who don't, like I said, do this 22 weekends a year. We look forward to this. We enjoy it. And we're still one of those teams that's still small enough to appreciate the fact that we're lucky enough to be out there in NHRA Top Fuel racing.
And I can attest, yes, definitely a family atmosphere out there. We all do cut up, and I mean, credit to you, Doug. You hold your cool better than many of the drivers and personalities out there. Because I mean, it was kind of a rough year. I saw it firsthand. I mean, it was, think about it, Doug. The second run of the year was a stuck throttle in testing down at the Gator Nationals before. And the second to the last run was a shut off. That kind of bookends everything that happened. And yet through it all, look, you had some moments, I could physically tell that you're like, but you handled it. We made sure we hid plastic bags and cords, but you were good. You were good. And it's been amazing to see that family atmosphere, because, I go in and out of a lot of pits, and it's very interesting the reception you get from each and every other pit. They're all different. They all have their own little mini cultures out there.
Yeah, they absolutely do. It's one of those things where somebody has to set the tone for how the pit area and how the team is going to, operate their team. And, for me, yes, it is Foley Lewis Racing, but Tim usually allows me the courtesy of just kind of running it my way for the most part. Obviously, big decisions are all made by him, but for the most part, we want that family operation. We want that family organization. We want us to enjoy ourselves, because you don't show up to the race guaranteed anything. You really don't. You're not guaranteed to win. We'll work towards it. We'll work hard towards it. I'm not saying we don't put our effort into it. We were in the shop all day yesterday, all day today. We found some problems with clutch disc. Now, this is a team that's not competing until February of next year. And we cut clutch discs all day today, went through inventory, tried to figure out what can we do better. So we do strive to do that. But at the same time, if you're not enjoying this, you're a fool. Okay. Very few people, 99% of the people that walk past our pit area wish they were on the other side of the ropes. So we're part of the fortunate people that get a chance to do it. Myself and Tim are fortunate enough in business to be able to help support a team to a certain degree. And, why should you be upset about anything? If there's a problem, fix it. That's what we did. We were courteous enough. We like you said, the second run was a stuck throttle. I think the third run, we kicked the rods out. It has just been more carnage this year for a team that really didn't accomplish a lot. Went to the semis in Charlotte. That was the only bright spot. Of course, it was a home track. So that was, obviously fun for us. I didn't do a good job at all. I was terrible on the tree this year, and those are things I need to work at. I'm not putting it on the team. I'm not putting it, on Doug Cook. I'm just putting it on the fact that we just had a terrible year, plain and simple. We noticed that. We started working on it in June to how do we resolve this? How do we be a better team next year? And we made the moves to hopefully correct that. And whether next year is a duplicate of this year, which we hope not, of course, or it's the best year and we go out and win 3-4 races, you probably won't know, other than maybe a little bit more hooting and hollering. You probably won't know the difference in our pit area, because we're going to have a good time and the tone's going to be friendly all the time, because why should it be?
And that's awesome. You talk about it, you guys are already starting to plan on and work on things for next year. And that was my next question. What's next for you guys? And you touched on it. You guys are already starting to prepare for February of next year. So, even being a smaller team, how do you feel in preparing, so long before even you guys are going out there? Do you think that is something that you guys have in your favor?
I do believe that. And we discussed, there was that little bit of a glimmer in our eye. Hey, do we maybe tell the guys, let's go to Bristol? Obviously we feel hope that Aaron Brooks can turn this thing around for us. So maybe do we add a race? Do we do this? But it kind of just goes against the plan. The plan is cut our losses, focus on a new chassis, all the things that we made a list a mile long of the things that we need to do to make this a better program. And, part of that was, obviously we bring Brooks on. Then what do we do to give him all of the things that we need to be a better team? Well, we always talked about we were absolutely going to always keep the team based out of Mooresville, North Carolina. That's where I live now. We love it here. We even went as far as we bought 12 acres. We just built a place called Horsepower Park. Myself and Tim, we bought the land, put the roads in. We called the road Nitro Alley. And it's going to be a park for all, any racers that are involved, and looking forward to it. We're going to build our brand new shop on that. And, but at the same time, while we were having conversations with Aaron on what's the best steps to move forward, we kind of looked at it and said, the car is better off with the guys, and, all of them being based out of Brownsburg and Avon in that area. It was time to make the hard decision to move the car to Indiana. and that's what we're going to do. So that's tough for me. I enjoy going by the shop and see how the guys are doing and all of that. But at the same time, it can't be selfish. It's got to be something that is a good decision for the team, and moving it there where it's close to Aaron and the guys is important. So we're doing that. We looked at our clutch parts this weekend. Aaron, he's a hands-on guy. He's not a guy who sits up in the lounge and just looks at his computer all day. He's out there in the pits. He'll show you, what is not right, and he'll show you how to fix it. He's not a guy who sits there and, reprimands you or this or that. He's a guy who fits well into our group because he's an educator. And so we learned a lot. And that intrigued us to go back and look at every clutch part. So Jeff today was going through every clutch disc we have. We found a little taper in our clutch grinder, and we fixed that this morning. And now we're recutting every disc we have. So those are the things that are going to make us a better team. The advantage we have now, because we don't have 8 full-time guys. So the answer to that is we have 4 months. So 4 months will give us the time to go through, and we're not sitting there just saying, let's just wait till we get to Indy and we'll fix it there. If I can box up all the discs and all the inventory we have, but box it up already prepared for next year, and it's one less thing that the guys have to worry about when they get to the shop in Indy, then that's done. I was filling oil jugs and getting ready to ship the red line and just doing all the things it takes to be a better team. And Aaron gave us a list of, hey, listen, we really don't use those particular items internally in the motor. I really prefer those. And, the easy decision would be is let's run it out and wait until those parts have lost their life, and then we'll, switch over. But, he was pretty strong about the value of some parts that we're not running. And so we're going to make that choice to switch over now and support him 100%. And those are the things that, are important to us. And I'm sure important to him is we got his back and we know he'll have ours. And, another big thing is this team always started in Gainesville. When you're a Northeast racer, which is where I started, now I'm a Southeast racer, but I was always an East Coast guy. So Gainesville was always the beginning of the season for us, in except for those couple of years that we had, major funding. So we're going to forego that next year. We're going to give these guys the opportunity to build me a badass car that's going to, 60 foot with the best of them. And we're going to run hard. And the way to do that, and the way to show my guys that we're dedicated to this is, we're going to go out there in Phoenix and we're going to test, a week, a couple days, whatever, before Pomona. And then we're going to, throw it in a box, and we're going to go over to Pomona. We're going to run over there, and we're going to service for a couple of days. We're going to run over to Phoenix and run that one, and get stuff back to Indy and prep it for Gator Nationals. And it'll be the first time in a long time that Foley Lewis is going into the Gator Nationals, having already competed at 2 races and already having whatever it is, 15, 20 runs are under our belt. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're running the points. That's not the case. But we're going to start in the beginning. We're going to size this team up and see where do we size up compared to the best of the best. And after Gainesville, we'll start to make some decisions on where we're at. The one advantage on top of that is we have great relationships that we didn't have at this time last year, and we're going to take those relationships to a totally different level. Just like the guys have 4 months to prep me a car and get ready, we have 4 months for myself and Guy and everybody involved, Lee, and all of us to kind of work hard to see if we can get those partners. I'll be out to SEMA show, to PRI show. I'll be banging down doors to find out if we could possibly get this team to 22 races next year.
I tell you, folks, he is a determined individual. It's something I've noticed. Doug may not be the flashiest and most flamboyant guy out there. He's got me to make up for that. But he definitely is determined to get that car running and better and be a car that is competitive. And, look, Doug, I appreciate, again, I've seen it all year. So many times, even when I think that you could have said, man, this was not my fault, it was on you guys or whoever, you've kept it on your shoulders and you've been like, hey, reaction time wasn't where it was. I mean, honestly, wasn't Sunday morning one of the better ones over the whole year? Didn't it get out the gate a little bit better?
Yes, it did. Like I says, I take the blame for it. And you look at some of these teams. I mean, God, it's probably the worst it's ever been for young kids kicking the butt on a tree right now. It is unbelievable right now. You got all these guys going, 40, 50, 60, and then all of a sudden this Spencer Massey guy shows up and goes, huh, that's all you could do? 29, and knocks. I mean, Antron out with what, a 51 light or something like that, and beats him on a hole shot with a 51. God, I would kiss Lee's butt to have a 51 light. Okay. I mean, give me a break, So, I mean, no bashing on Antron. Antron's my boy. And he did a great job and he was just on the bad side of a really good race. But you look at what these guys are doing, I'm going to have to step up my game. And there's nothing worse than a driver going back to the pit area and a loss because, I didn't do my job. And is it going to happen? It's going to happen. Okay. Just like there's times I'm going to do my job and maybe they fell off a little bit, but it's truly a team sport. There's one driver and a big crew, but we're family. We're going to take our lumps together. We proved that this year. And hopefully we're going to take our victories together next year. And, a lot of people don't know this. This is a team that's never won an NHRA national event. We came from the IHRA side and had a lot of success. We did pretty darn good over there. And then we came over here, and in our early years, 2007, we went to 5 semifinals and kicked some butt. But, we took some time off and whatever, we decided to come back. And, there's less cars, but the competition is still strong. The good cars are still really good. That's never going to change. This is the top of the top, where we drag race. And, with that the case, we need to be better. And so, yes, I mean, we made some changes over this week. I was kind of, intrigued by Aaron coming on board. And so we went over to the trailer to email him some runs and get the clutch for him so we could prepare for the event. I asked Jeff, I say, listen, you do me a favor, maybe go upstairs and could you pull the pedal off the car? So we pulled the gas pedal off the car and we brought it to my friend Mike right next door. And I said, could you make some changes here? Why are we waiting to next year? Let's just try it now. I talked to some, one thing people don't realize, the drivers are real friendly. I talked to Clay in the last, week or so. And, I talked to some different drivers and they kind of gave me a little insight on what they do. And it was a little different than what I do. So I took the pedal. I kind of emulate what some of the other drivers were doing. What I was doing was obviously not working. So let's just try it. Let's get prepared. Let's see if it works for me in going into next season. And we put it in the car. It was a little funky on the first run for sure. I just wasn't used to it. You got to realize I got a lot more leg than most of those guys have, being at 6'1". And these, the average driver is probably 5'6". So it was a little different, but I got used to it, got more comfortable. And I felt like I was a little bit better first round. And I was on the simulator yesterday and I'm going to get better. If it's the last thing I do, I'm going to get better. I'm going to put the car in shallower and give these guys what they deserve, which is the full 1,000 feet. And at the same time, do my job better to try and be. I'm not going to try and be 40 or 50 player. I mean, I just don't think it's feasible for me. But I think if Aaron gives me the car, I think he's capable of giving me, and I can give him maybe in the 60s average, give him something reasonable. I think we'll be a contender next year, and I'd like to see this team get their first number one qualifier sometime next year. I'd love to see this team get their first win. A lot of people don't know it, and Lee, I don't even know if you know that. You're talking about the ball guy on the team. Do you know he has 23 NHRA runner-ups? Okay, he's never won an NHRA race. Could you imagine having 23 runner-ups? Okay, you would literally have to take the cords out of the pit area if that was the case, if that was me as a driver. Okay, so you got to give a lot of credit to a guy who has been out here a long time and decides to keep coming back because he wants that Wally. Okay. And at the end of the day, it's not the paycheck. It's not any of that. It's the camaraderie with the people. It's the love of the sport. And at the end of the day is we want that Wally. And I want to give that team that Wally, and I want to give them the first 360s run.
That's awesome that you're not putting yourself before, your crew. You're doing it. And someone like him, I mean, that many chances of being that close, someone else, like you said, would give up already. But it just really shows how the love for the sport continues. And there's more I could say about that, with everyone saying how the stands look or this and that. Like, I mean, this man has probably seen the stands completely full and completely empty, but he still shows up week in and week out and wants to go racing at a chance to, hosting, I think, one of the best trophies that we have in sports in general. But Doug, as always, I've had you on my show, In the Groove podcast. It's always just sitting down, talking to you. It's refreshing. I know you get to see, I got to go that way, this guy's face all the time as you get to work with him, and he has the pleasure of working with you. So thank you for coming on to the Power Hour and, just telling us what it's really like at the track and what you are looking forward to with the upcoming seasons for you guys. And you're already planning for February.
Yeah, we're excited. We are excited. I appreciate you guys bringing me on because, it's about exposure for partners. It's about the ability for me to expose them to your fan base and let them know that we're working hard. It doesn't matter if it's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night or if it's, Saturday night cutting clutch discs, getting ready for first round, or Monday afternoon making phone calls to try and find them some business to justify why they're part of Foley & Lewis Racing. So it doesn't matter. It's the love of the sport that drives us. It's the aura of winning one of these races one day and just getting that feeling of what some of these other big teams have get to feel on a regular basis. And we're going to accomplish that next year. That's a promise that I'm making.
Yeah, Sam, I told Doug to make sure to take his Vita C shot. That's one of our partners. Take his Vita C shot. Y'all can get that on Amazon.com and select stores. And I don't get naps. I told him that I've heard they work. Did you get a nap in today, Doug, or are you full blast?
I'm full blast. I will tell you this. I did take a Tylenol PM right before this interview. So this way, by the time we're done, I will be out. Okay. I also have a career in construction, and I can tell you that those guys usually are digging footers at like 6 a.m. And I got concrete companies calling me at 5:30 saying, "Hey, the truck's on its way." And I'm like, okay, so, hey, listen, I'm fortunate enough to have a business that helps me, enjoy my racing career. Okay. I'm very fortunate. And, so there's absolutely no complaints in my life. I am, very fortunate to be part of this. I will think about the Friday of Pomona, probably starting yesterday, every day until we get to Pomona and testing and what we can do to be competitive and what we can do to hoist that trophy one of these days. And, but it's people like you that are out here, like I says, talking the sport, getting people interested in the sport and keeping the fan base up. And hey, listen, we're going to have rainy days just like every other track does, every other sanctioning body does. Not every football game is full. Don't let them tell you differently. Okay. And we'll get, you look at Reading. Reading was jam-packed. Jam-packed. So Charlotte's a different market. And that's just a different conversation. But at the same time we do need to, I agree with what Sam said before he even got on there. We need to promote these races well in advance. We can't start selling tickets on Thursday afternoon for that weekend. We have to get out there. We have to work harder. as all the teams do. And we need to get more of our sponsors involved in sending the message out to their fan base too, to get out there, support NHRA drag racing, support the sponsors involved, because at the end of the day, that's the only way we're going to continue the growth and continue. So somebody who's 20 years younger than me can come out and have the same opportunity I do.
Well, Doug, look, thank you again for being on. Thank you again for the opportunity you've given me. And hey, looking forward to 2022. Definitely.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Folks, Doug Foley.
And that Tylenol PM is probably about to kick in right about now. But no, awesome to have him on. Like you said, that is your boss. So that's cool to see that connection and just continue to watch their progress and watch them grow. You know, it just speaks of continuous effort. I mean, 22 times of being that close, Lee, to being that close, to being right there.
Yeah,
it probably happens, you know, to us more than what we think, you know, with the things that you and I are trying to achieve with our own social medias and jobs and different things we're trying to do. You know, there's probably 22 times you and I have been that close and not even known it and getting knocked down. But to have that in your face and to still want and have the drive to do it, I'm just saying, man, it speaks volumes of the heart and determination that people can have. But Lee, as we go on, we're going to try something really, really new on this show.
Yes.
Fingers crossed. See how this works. But Lee, explain, kind of give an intro into what we're doing. You talked about it before, something new, but we're trying to be innovate, you know, in with the time, make things work for people. So what are we about to do, Lee?
Make things work for people. Be flexible. Isn't that what we all want? Some flexibility. Well, Steve Reintjes, the VP of broadcasting for the NHRA, he is on the show tonight, but he was already on the show. Me and Sam had a recorded session with him. So this is what's about to happen, folks. You are going to see the interview live. Nothing is going to happen to the show. The show will remain live, but you're about to see a recorded interview that we did roughly an hour before the show. Thank you, Steve, for your time. Me and Sam aren't going anywhere. I mean, we might take a restroom break, but we're going to be in the comments section. We're going to be chatting along with you, so don't think the interaction has left because it's just a recording, but it's a very insightful interview about the broadcast world from the VP of broadcasting. Do we get every question answered? No, we had 30 minutes of his time, but it was extremely insightful. So I'm looking forward to this interview and you all being able to hear of it. And if you have questions, put them in the comment section. Me and Sam might be able to answer them. We were able to talk with him a little bit before and after. I think we had a great interview and I'm looking forward to it. Should we dive in, Sam?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, great interview, great opportunity to talk with someone that knows the insides and, you know, a lot more. Like, it's surprisingly, every time we get a guest on here, we think that they have one role, but then once they kind of start letting loose, it's like, oh, well, you actually have done this. You've done this in your past. Oh, my goodness. So, you know, the onion continues to pull itself back on this show. And, you know, it's just, there's just so much to talk about, so little time. But Lee, I don't know if you're going to break to a commercial or if you're going to dive right into it. But you guys, I'm telling you, this is an interview that you don't want to skip past or go and say, you know what, I don't want to watch it because it's not completely live. We have to try new things for our guest. And I think this is a great one that you don't want to miss.
Diving right now in with Vice President of Broadcasting for the NHRA, Steve Reintjes. Folks, Competition Plus Power Hour, we want to present to you the Vice President. Man, Sam, another big shot on the show. Good to have that. Steve Reintjes on with us, and he is VP of Broadcasting. Well, man, I know there's a lot we want to get into. There's a lot that people want to get a glimpse behind the scenes and understand your perspective of it. But let me first say, I know Sam would say it along with me, congratulations. What a buzz it has been here recently on social media. A 0.80 in ratings, whatever that means, and like 1.45 million that saw the most recent broadcast on average. And that's not even me throwing out the number of the peak. So congrats, man.
Thank you. No, I think it's it's a really good accomplishment for the team. Obviously, our NHRA and Fox broadcast team has, I think really come together. We've been together now for at least under my leadership for the better part of 3 seasons now, and it's good to see the fruits of the labor. We continue to do things to try and make the shows better, and take the advice of others, try and take a broad perspective to it. So, but this one really came down to putting ourselves in a position to where we could have the alliance with the NFL and be able to lead in and lead out of NFL broadcast, depending on where you were across the country. And obviously, I think we saw the benefit of that, and are excited that the numbers are where they want, where they were to have, at one point in the broadcast over 2.2 million people join. It's pretty impressive. So we're excited about that.
And talk about it. You said it, seeing the fruits of your labor and your team come together. How do you feel about that, knowing in only 3 short years, especially with taking over with the COVID year, that you guys have produced and put NHRA on a pedestal at this point, even through a pandemic?
Well, there's a lot to be learned over what we dealt with in the last, specific to the pandemic in the last 12 to 18 months. I mean, you grow closer as a team. You have to think through things differently and attack things differently. And really just to get through the stresses of the pandemic and what it created to the live sports environment in general was, that's a feat within itself. So, I think it's a combination of just understanding that we can technologically do things a lot more efficient, a lot different, a lot better. And really that's not a credit to me. That's a credit to the great team that we have around us, and specifically our, Rob Hedrick, who is one of our tech managers on the show, really reinvented a lot of how we do, remote workflows over the last 18 months. You've probably seen a lot of the Skype pieces and things that we've put out from his studio with, Brian Lone's leadership on the on-air side. So, we've been able to connect the dots on a lot of what we were able to do over the last 18 months and bring some of those things into the television environment. And the remote workflow, like what we're doing here right now. I mean, I think 18 months ago, a lot of us weren't doing this kind of thing, and we have the ability to do it, which is really cool.
It is amazing how technology, just in software or a website like we're using with StreamYard.com, has come along to, even with a hack as myself, can hit a few buttons and put on something semi-professional and have an interview such as with yourself. And look, on the ratings thing, on what this most recent DeWalt NHRA Carolina Nationals was able to hit, I want to give you a little bit of perspective, and I don't know if anyone has given you this number. So Saturday night was one of the biggest motorsporting events in America, period, the Bristol Night Race. They're estimating that it was like a 1.45 rating, like 2.2 million on average. That's not that far off rolling into Sunday for NHRA, competing and with a program that is not as historic and a national event that is not as well known. It's not like a crown jewel as a Gator Nationals or a U.S. Nationals. So, hearing those numbers and comparing and going toe-to-toe on a weekend like that, it's got to make your team feel good that, NHRA is kind of getting its shots in.
Yeah, and I think, it's a credit to the Fox Sports relationship as well. I mean, when you look at where we have gone, over the initial contract and now with our re-up of the contract, I mean, it really is, an important part of it is positioning ourselves around those other mainstream sports that do really well. I mean, obviously NASCAR we're well positioned with throughout the season on a number of our telecasts, but to really, for Fox to put the trust in us to put on a really good show, and really have to do it in in a tight, finite window. I mean, a 2-hour window where we had no margin for error. And I think that's a whole other conversation that we can get into. But for them to trust in us that we were going to put a show on and the product on that was going to be able to surround that in a 2-hour broadcast says a lot about where we've come. And yeah, and you know, that's a big part of my job as well. You know, I obviously produce the shows with a talented group of individuals. But beyond that, you know, I also work hand in hand with our Fox Sports group on the programming side to assure that we end up in the best position we can with connectivity to other sports and the air windows and how we choose, you know, the times that we air on the weekend, et cetera, qualifying throughout the finals. So, you know, there's two elements of the new deal that you know we're really excited about, and one of them is the expanded number of Fox broadcast network shows, which on average will be 8 a year now, and then what we hope and certainly looks like will be a continued alliance at least once a year with the NFL broadcast. So, and listen, for us, it's all about just trying to get, you know, more exposure to those people that may not otherwise watch our sport, because as we all know, we're so tied to it, and we're very, you know, it's an unbelievable sport. It's an unreal display of power and energy and excitement. And, you know, you go to the races and you see it, it's incredible. So the more that we can get other people some awareness of that, the better. And I think you'll see opportunities like this create new fans for the sport, which I think is really, really important.
And that's good that you touched on it, especially with the times and the situations, you know, where you have to pick these different clips to show, and what are we going to show and what are we going to, you know, not show. So when we look at the bigger picture for people that don't understand, how much time, you know, do you guys really have to decide, okay, we're going to use this, we're going to show this, and this is what we're going to step out from? Because as a fan, a lot of these people say, well, they don't show enough of this and they don't show enough about this. Yeah. But you guys are on a huge time crunch.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that in there is the main challenge. I mean, there are so many factors that go into how we produce the show. The first one being the length of the air window. You know, we could air anywhere from 1 hour in qualifying all the way up to, you know, 3.5 hours for the finals. That obviously dictates a lot of how much we can cover, what we cover. You know, the second part of it is that
Sam. Oh, see, he's back.
We're back.
You're back. Go ahead.
All right.
I was like, okay, do I pause here? Do I lay out? That, you know, in TV we call that a layout. And then speaking of editing the shows together, we'll do layouts and pickups. So that's exactly what we're with here. So, but anyways,
there you go.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly where I left off with you, but the reality is the first thing is the length of the broadcast. So it could be a 1 hour broadcast for qualifying, all the way up to 3.5 hours for a final show on a Sunday, like we had in Reading, was a 3.5 hour broadcast. So that really dictates how much of each run we can show, what classes we can show, et cetera. But you also have to factor in the number of classes that are in attendance. So, you know, for instance, in Charlotte, this was the most challenging scenario that we've had, and we've only had it once or twice over the last 6 or 7 years. When you're trying to get a minimum of 4 professional categories into the show, you know, meaning Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock Motorcycle, along with a lot of the other wanton desire that we have to show some of the other, you know, classes of the NHRA. I mean, the 17, 18 categories plus, you know, a lot of the specialty events that go on at events. It really changes show to show what we show and how we can show it. But I will say unequivocally that we are very much on the pulse of what's happened in the key storylines. And for us, at the end of the day, we have to, you know, balance the coverage with a lot of the key storylines that are in front of us on a race to race basis. But it's trying to get 4 categories in to a 2 hour show at a minimum, plus, you know, show the audience as much as we can of additional categories, which we know are the heart and soul of the sport, is really challenging. So there's a lot that goes into it, and we don't take it for granted. And And we really are respectful of every category that's in attendance there and try and do as much as we can with each of them.
With this particular broadcast, it having the positioning of being a lead in or lead out of an NHRA, of a National Football League program, what is that like? Like, I envision like two command centers on the horn. We're about wrapped up. You can take it anytime now. We're counting down. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, fumble. You know, I mean, what's it like? Or, you know, in our case, oh, we got an oil down. What's an oil down? We've never heard of that. You know, so
Right.
What is happening? And like, do the two command centers even talk? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, well, we have a senior coordinating producer on site, Pete Richards, who also fills in and produces some of the shows for me during the weekends at certain points. He is our main Fox Sports contact. He's an actual Fox Sports employee, huge fan of the NHRA as well. So we are in constant communication within the production trucks on site with our Fox Sports group. They have a command center, obviously, which is, you know, from their end is probably crazy on a football Sunday. But he is in constant communication, and there is a lot of ebb and flow, especially when we are a live part of the show. So we essentially provided the same telecast that aired in two different air windows this weekend. The first of them, which was a live join for the finals. So the initial airing of our show started at 2 p.m. Eastern, ended up airing until 4 p.m. Eastern or thereabouts. That was all done as a timed out to live show. So, you know, you speaking to what we're kind of dealing with a little bit early in the day, we're essentially starting on track, or we did for the Camping World Drag Racing Series at 10:30 on Sunday. So you have in a 4.5, 5 hour span that we have to condense and make look professional for TV and fit into an hour and 27 minutes of content in a window. Along with that, we're also determining, depending on how the race flow is happening during the day, which is, you know, we really have hand-in-hand communication with our racing administration group and Josh, you know, Peterson, who obviously kind of dictates and runs the event along with all the division directors, what goes on track, the timing of the track, along with another vice president of ours, Evan Jonat, who I'm in full constant communication with, because he's working on the live event side and in the flow of the event from a track perspective. So we are it takes a lot of hands to make it even seem seamless to time out. And really our ability to kind of make that happen in a window where we had no margin for error. I mean, if you can imagine from a fan's perspective or the Fox Sports perspective, if we even run over 2 or 3 minutes into NFL football, you can imagine some of the chaos that would ensue. So for us to get off at the exact second we needed to for that first 2 hour window was, I think, its own monumental feat. But to your point, the second part of that is that, you know, they are taking in that show as it's airing live for the first window and fully prepared to re-air segments in a variety of different markets across the country, depending on when, let's say, you know, the Charlotte example is a good example where they have NFL, then they have a post-game show from the Fox affiliate, and then they have a local post-game show. So they have to be able to air that show in a different time slot than they would have somebody who joined right at 4:30. So it's complete madness, honestly. I still don't, you know, fully grasp that operations end of it, but they have the ability to deliver to multiple markets, the same show, different segments. It's pretty remarkable.
Yes, the meltdown on Twitter when the broadcast does not go the way in which it's intended is insane. Like, you know, NASCAR Twitter, for example, let it get bumped to NBC something below sports in the main. Oh, oof, just get off. Just get off.
Yep. Yeah,
Hey,
that was, you know,
there's
go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's a few of those NFL teams that if the broadcast went a little further and I didn't have to watch them that much, even though I don't really watch football, I'm kind of anti-NFL right now a little bit, but I'm giving them a chance. But, you know, I'm just saying, like, if there's a few of those Dallas Cowgirls, Tampa Bay Bucks, Chargers, excuse me, allergies are really bad this time of the year.
Now
but
you're hitting my
Chargers.
No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, I'm originally from San Diego. Was raised there, graduate high school there. But we're going to dive into it. There is just something about when that black and silver came to town that it was just like, man, how could you not want to be a fan of that? So growing up, season ticket holder to Qualcomm Stadium that now no longer exists. But yeah, turned me into a diehard Raiders fan. I actually worked for the Chargers for 2 years. My junior and senior year, I worked for the Chargers, but still a Raiders fan. I told them, hey, when the Raiders come to town, I want that weekend off. I come in with my badge, so I got the free tickets, and they were like, they kind of looked the other way and have on my Raiders gear. But, like the broadcast, everything like that, I know Lee's got some of these questions, but out of your crew, who's that one person out of your crew that you're just like, yeah, we're going to have to give them a little bit more airtime, or yeah, we got to give them an extra 20 minutes to get everything going right, before we put the camera in their face. Give us some dirt on a few of those key players.
Yeah, we want the dirt on the personalities.
Yeah, well, the first thing I'll say is that it speaks to working with the same crew for 3 or 4 years. I mean, we've become really tight. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that the way that Brian Loans and Tony Pedregon have grown together, I think it's evident across the board. And I think it's a direct result of Brian's passion for the sport. Tony is an interesting character, and I've gotten to know him really well. But that guy knows his stuff. He is a very astute individual when it comes to the sport of drag racing. And I think, and he'll admit it too, the challenge from his perspective was, listen, it's not easy to get in front of a camera and try and translate. And you all, probably know what I'm talking about right now with the fun, element that you guys are doing on a weekly basis. But it's not an easy thing to do. And I think, he got a lot of, I think, flack from the core racers. But, in my eyes, he's really improved, and especially this year, and towards the end of last year. And I think it's a direct result of repetition, understanding the flow of what we're trying to do from a TV show. I mean, imagine walking in there blind, and seeing what I kind of just tried to describe to you. Probably did a poor job of it, but how much moving and shaking there is on the TV side, and have a producer like me, or others screaming in his ear that he's got to lay out in 4 or 5 seconds. He's got to be done with this thought in 4 or 5 seconds, because we got to get to the end of the run. We got to get to a layout point, because we know that we got to cover this next run a little more in detail than we just did the prior one. So there's a lot of nuances to it. And, so I think it's been interesting to see the light bulb come on with him. He's not afraid to say what's on his mind either. And I think he gets some flack from that as well. But the reality is, and I'm speaking as a TV person who, any producer in the world is going to want a fair amount of direct nature. They're going to want conflict. They're going to want certain things to happen. To me, I think, I say it all the time, man, you got to lead with the headline, and you got to be direct, and you're not out here to make friends. We all obviously want to, be cohesive, and we want to have good relationships with people. But in the end of the day, I mean, I'm going to hold him accountable on doing his job, and that's to be direct, be honest, and to use his experience as a driver to translate it to the audience. I don't know if I'm getting a little John Force on you. Did I even answer the question there?
A little John Force. Wow, I love that. That was great. Oh, no, you really did, Jay. You gave us an inside glimpse to the nature of the team, and mentioning that you all are tight. And I think you'd have to be to trust one another, hand things off, and understand when am I going to speak a little over, speak a little under, or whatever it might be. And I agree with you. From the first broadcast to now, Tony and Brian have done a lot better gelling and meshing in what is going on up there in the tower. And I was speaking with Brian at Maple Grove on early Saturday morning, and we were talking about, hey, we are dealing with professional athletes out there, and occasionally when they do something wrong, they should be called out. It's the same thing in NFL. If a receiver drops the ball that could have won the game,
yeah,
people are going to talk about that. Skip Bayless is going to be talking about it. Shannon Sharp's going to be talking about it. Whoever else is going to be talking about it, they're going to be called out for it. And if you're going to be a professional, you're going to be held to a professional standard, and it's going to be mentioned. And I mean, I know I've caught a little bit of heat even on this show for mentioning, somebody and being like, well, that particular individual, I've never seen her really drive at all. Like, I don't know why everybody is all up in arms about this person. No lights, wrecks.
Yep.
It's out there. You got to call it.
Yeah. And we try not to speculate. I mean, we try to use factual information everywhere we can, and you combine the factual information with the experience of those that are in the booth and those that know the game. And at the end of the day, we're also respectful and receptive to, to people, and anyone can come talk to us. And I think they would say that we're open to opinion, and we're open to people's perspective on how we do things. And I think that's important for all of us to try and get better, at how we're navigating this sport and these broadcasts.
And that's awesome. Like you guys touched on, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp, different things like that. When you look at what this broadcast has done and what you guys continue to do week in and week out, I posted it today on my social media page. Why isn't ESPN, the stick and ball sports, why aren't we being talked about as drag racers on that platform? We have, drivers, athletes that are going this fast. They're, fighting the G's. They're doing this. They're getting sponsorships, but yet we still get neglected. I mentioned it on this show a lot, comparing it to what the stick and ball sports athletes are doing. And I think our athletes are right up there and, comparable with them. So from your perspective of seeing this, producing this, and knowing sometimes I may get cut off because, of X, Y, and Z. Does that ever, you ever wonder about that? Like, why are we not getting the understanding and the publicity as we should be in some sense?
Yeah, I mean, and we've had a lot of conversations about it. And listen, I've lived it on the other end. I was with ESPN for 18 years before I transitioned over to the NHRA and Fox coverage. So, I've seen both sides of it. I mean, there's no, I can't give you a direct answer other than I understand, at least, I don't want to say I understand, but I am receptive to, the major sports and the ratings monster that is the NFL and the NBA, and even, to a lesser degree, Major League Baseball, but the college football element. And I think it just comes down to the fact that the networks, that network in particular is going to put a lot of their focus on the core, what they call their big four sports, the NFLs, the NBAs, the college footballs, basketball. And this is my personal opinion versus knowing and understanding, but there's so much financial element tied to it as well. And you've seen all of the contracts that are out there and the amount of money that's paid, that changes hands for all of those sports. So, the nature of it is that's going to dictate a lot of what they're covering and what's going to keep the chatter and the momentum going. But I would, I'd say again, I think we've come a long way on the Fox Sports side with that too. And in the NFL and what we've done there with being able to align with that is just one of those steps. But I think, it's got to be more of a paradigm shift within the industry if somebody's going to have to make the conscious choice to branch out to some of the, the sports like NHRA drag racing and really take the time to realize the stars and the personalities that are here. I mean, we know it. There's some awesome personalities in our sport, and we certainly can try and be better on our end on marketing them and getting our names and faces out there. But it's a tall undertaking just because of the nature of how the global following of those sports that I just mentioned. It's hard.
Yeah, I scrolled through the Fox Sports Facebook page earlier today and scrolled all the way back to about Friday, Thursday, and not a single clip of anything NHRA drag racing. And I was like, there's still a little bit of room
no doubt.
and grow and progress. Though I really feel that anyone out there right now that is saying that Fox is not doing a better job than what ESPN was, like, what have you been watching and where have you been watching drag racing? I have really enjoyed the coverage that Fox has been providing. And look, you mentioned some of those other sports. Explain to people, because TV is a weird world. Like, I still don't get. I've read it over and over, the ratings explanation of like what, and I'm like, what? So when NHRA drag racing might have got bumped for softball, can you explain that to us? Like, why does that in fact happen? Like, is there really that much of an audience for softball, or is there a contract, or did pay extra money? What's going on?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a combination. I mean, there's so many. And with, Fox and ESPN are in a similar boat when there are so many different entities that are part of the family. There are contractual obligations that weigh in. There are, live sporting event versus taped sporting event, which, that's kind of the unwritten rule in the business is you never leave a live sporting event for another event, and that typically is what happens. I think where we have tried to do a better job over the last few years is to be live or have live joins as much as possible, because if we are joining live, the scenario of us getting bumped from as a tape program is less and less. But the reality is, listen, it's positioning. We have, like I've said, I'm on multiple calls and email chains a week with the Fox programming group and our partners at Fox. And we are, we're very cognizant on making sure that we are putting ourselves in position to where it at least minimizes the chance of that happening. Now, if we have a live, NASCAR trucks race in front of us or NASCAR event in front of us and they run long because of weather, those things happen. And we try and minimize that. But the reality is, in those scenarios too, it's a little bit of a hidden gem, and that we could have a much bigger audience leading into an NHRA show if it does run over 3 or 4 minutes or 5 minutes, just because of the nature of the live sports. But yeah, it's hard to answer, probably as cohesively as you'd want, but there are a lot of factors that go into it. But we do feel like the Fox Sports group and our relationship has really helped us minimize the chances of that happening. Whereas I think, especially the last few years with the ESPN deal, it was a lot larger problem than it is now, for sure.
And, as we continue to talk and you talk about these different things, is the Fox team growing? Because I think there's two guys, myself and, I got to point it this way, Lee, that are great entertainment for the people. They always ask if I'm at the track or if Lee's at the track, why aren't we together? When is the Fox Sports crew going to say we need Slam and Sam and Monday Morning Racer part of our team? I think that's the real question here.
If y'all want the court gestures of a broadcast, so just give us a call. We'll be out there for you.
Hey, the and not only the Fox Sports family, but the NHRA.TV and the NHRA family is always growing. And there's always, we're looking to get creative in a number of different areas. So, there's the door is always open. We'll have to have some follow-up conversations. But listen, I think there's so much other creative avenues outside of the Fox world that we've opened up over the last few months. But hey, we got a lot of different fish on the barbecue right now, and there's a lot of different areas and doors that are opening up. So hey, you never know. You guys have a good thing going. I like this. I'd like to try and do more of these myself.
It has been
in the famous movie quote. So you're saying there's a chance?
Yes. Yes. Look, I think right now is a great time for drag racing. One of the best times for NHRA drag racing in particular. I tweeted someone today after sharing about the numbers on this most recent broadcast. I really think NHRA drag racing post-COVID, getting near post-COVID, is better than pre-COVID NHRA drag racing. And what I hear on other fronts, and like what the Texas Motorplex is about to do with a whole week-long event and leading into the national event, I think there are some great things ahead for NHRA drag racing. And you mentioned barbecuing some fish and some bigger things ahead. What is your hope for the broadcasts? Where do you want them to get to? Do you have a ratings goal? Is it a quality goal? What's out there on the table for the team that you all want to gobble up?
Yeah, and I think to me, it's hard. The world is changing so much of how people consume television, where they consume it. It's the cutting the cords, the cables, the OTT worlds. So I think from us, it's hard to put a metric on a finite rating scenario, because I think there is so much that's going to continue to change over the next 4 or 5 years with that element. What I want to really do is try and find ways to get better with technology to really better describe what's going on during any given event. I mean, I think you guys, may have seen it over the last few broadcasts, but I feel like we've done a disservice to the staging process in particular, and how much cat and mouse happens at the starting line. We've added a couple POV lock-off cameras over the last few events to really try and drive home the importance of, the first 30, 45 seconds of a drag race. So I think, the biggest thing for me is just continuing to look for opportunities to really tie in the technology, which is it's Pandora's box right now with what's becoming available on the technology side from sports television broadcasts. So we're going to continue to look at that and see where we can better improve our coverage from that perspective. Be able to better react to some of the numbers that are available in the sport, and go from that perspective. And then I think, the other big piece I look at is really my overarching role as the vice president of broadcasting, is where else can we go, knowing that we have this unbelievable historical content that dates back into the 50s. So I think, we're diving into really the 24/7 digital side of things. We are actually in the process and have a 24/7 digital network, NHRA digital network, that is now active in beta testing and will be available over a number of free apps, free advertising-based video on demand apps called AVOD. So you're going to probably see a lot more news in the next couple months with that coming out. But to me, I look at, the core drag racing fan has a great opportunity to see, historic content in a number of different ways. We're sitting on a library of content dating back to the 50s. There's plenty of events, races, historical, that can be populated to do a 24/7 digital channel. So you'll probably see a lot more of that, kind of in our future in the near term.
It all sounds good, Steve, and definitely looking forward to what you and your team there with the broadcast have got in store. I know from, the intro and exit pieces I thought it was smart to relate things to football and drag racing in this most recent broadcast. I know there were some fans making some dumb comments on social media, but it makes sense. You're working with that window, and someone who's never seen it before, connect the dots, make it understandable. Right. I thought that was smart. So you all are doing a good job. We appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. And those real quick plug, Lauren Adams, she's a star. She does a lot of our feature producing pieces, and she's a talent, and really credit to her for putting a lot of those together. And then Brian, does a lot of the scripts for those, and has a very crafty in how he articulates and writes stuff. So we have a really good team, and that's what it comes down to. I couldn't do it without everyone that's around us, and we're working hard, and we're trying to be better every day, and I think that's important.
We all appreciate it. We want to thank you, especially for taking the time out of your day and your busy schedule to come on, chat with us about a little bit of sports, a lot of drag racing, and unfortunately, you're still a Chargers fan. So
Yeah. I don't know. That can be debated, man. I was heartbroken when they left San Diego. Golly. Maybe if I'd have been a Raiders fan, I wouldn't have had, quite the issue. Although they've moved a lot too. So
yeah, just don't get too attached.
Exactly.
Right. Don't get attached. Hey, Raiders have no real home in even real life. They just go around and raid. But the Raiders of the NFL can't even raid a food pantry.
All right, we're not going to talk about this.
Yeah, we're going to move on. We're going to move on. Steve,
yeah,
thank you for your time, man. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we look forward to showing this tonight on Competition Plus Power Hour.
Thank you. And when you're on site, come over to the TV trucks and say hello.
We'll do it.
We'll do.
All right. Thank you all.
And we're back.
Man, that was kind of different, Lee. Kind of different.
That was different, yes. But Steve, once again, thank you. Also, shout out to Elon Warner. He helps us book this show, does a lot of the booking for the show. He suggested he got Steve on. Thank you, Elon. Thank you, Steve, for your time. Folks, I feel like that was extremely insightful to that world. And I hope we continue to have some of these people come on from the NHRA that are behind the scenes. People want to know these people and hear what they've got to say.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about it. I think it's perfect timing after having Dr. Surface on a couple of weeks ago and now having Steve on. Just give you more and more and more true insight of all the stuff that we all complain about. I was sitting there looking at some of the comments there as we were in the in the background watching this, and people are asking these questions, and people are wondering like, okay, what is this and what is that? And now he's rolling out answering these questions of what they're trying to do and what their intentions are. So I think this show is very unique in its own way. It drives the needle forward in its own way, especially with having Dr. Surface on, now having Steve on, and more guests to come, just to give you guys a little bit more, not just our opinions, but actually give you those hardcore facts and those hardcore numbers that we're not seeing every day, and not understanding what Fox has to do and what the different organizations that are a part of the grand scheme of what we call NHRA. So I hope you guys that are out there that are watching, listening, understanding, knows, and maybe I'm good friends with Lauren, who actually does a lot of the shooting and producing of the show. So maybe we can have her come on too, or I'll have her on my show and just talk.
Individual.
Yeah, and talk about that diversity and that different atmosphere that she's in as a woman in this industry. So just so much to talk about inside of drag racing, not just from the drag surface, not from the stands, not from anything. I think that there's so much we can talk about and learn and collectively grow.
Yes, sir. Definitely agree with that. Slammin' Sam. Look, Sam, it's going to be a 2-hour show here in just a few minutes. Before we take it off the air, the NHRA rookie battle is quite intriguing. There for a while, it looked like that the clear front leading horse was Dallas Glenn. But now a dark horse has appeared in Kyle Koretsky, if he can get hot for the rest of the year. And trailing behind, due to the part-time nature of his schedule, was Josh Hart. But with winning this weekend, he might not be neck and neck, but he is close to Dallas Glenn in that Rookie of the Year argument.
Man, with that one right, how do you, again, the battle within the own horse's stable, the battle within the camp. I said it last week, I think we introduce one more rookie into that camp just to keep the battle alive. That'll be a female driver, obviously. I don't know. This is one that I want to just play it out. I don't want to say what I think, because then I think it can change things. Not that my opinion really matters or it has any weight, but I kind of just want to watch this one. I'm not going to give an opinion to you. I know you want me to. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to wait and just see. No, all controversy aside, honestly, I kind of just want to sit back on this one.
I will say, in a year like this, I wish Rookie of the Year was per class. But NHRA drag racing doesn't necessarily always have a big crop of rookies in each class. It is spread out over the professional categories. You know, it's easy in NASCAR for them to have a Rookie of the Year. You've got 4 drivers within, one racing sector of NASCAR, whether it's Cup, Xfinity, or Trucks. But we're talking about rookies across the board of Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock, and Pro Stock Motorcycle. So when you look at Dallas Glenn, you look at Kyle Koretsky, you look at Josh Hart, you have their merits all across the board. And remember, folks, the qualifications for Rookie of the Year, it's not just wins. Wins are not necessarily the deciding factor. It has to do with how they interact with the media. It has to do with how they bring on partners. It has to do with their interaction with their peers. It is more than just wins and points collected. So going down to the wire, start adding in all the factors?
How do you compete with last year's Rookie of the Year?
In what way?
Bringing on more sponsorships, interacting with the fans and the media. Like, some tough shoes to fill.
They are, but I would say, in all their aspects and ways, you have them doing that. I think Kyle Koretsky brings on Lucas Oil to the Pro Stock ranks, and I know that he's got good fan interaction. Jacob Edwards would attest to that, and how he has had interaction with Kyle Koretsky, and I've seen it. Kyle's a good dude. I like Kyle. I think he's got a long time in this sport.
Okay, this is how I feel about Kyle. He grew up in this, so he knows how to interact with people. If you look at Kyle, and I think you and I can attest to this, when he first started at the Door Slammers to where he's at now, his interaction with people and how he's kind of came out of his shell and become very comfortable, just being himself. I think you can see that too, because if you look at earlier this year, with Door Slammers, he was kind of in his shell. But I think with time they do grow. Like I said, I'm not going to give you an opinion on this year, Lee, just because I don't know. It's not that I'm torn. I just want to see how it all shakes out, and not go into it with a preset mindset of, I think this person or that person. Just continue to watch them and continue to watch these individuals grow into, I think once we see them next year, you're going to be like, oh, okay, no brainer. If that makes sense.
Right. Josh Hart brings on RL Carriers and brings them into the sport, someone who had never been involved, and bringing the trucking industry into the sport, which has had many sponsorship roles in other forms of motorsport, namely NASCAR, and in particular what is now the Xfinity Series. I think of Dallas Glenn. He secured sponsorship with Rad Torque Wrenches, of the Torque company, Rad, and it's going to be tough. Whoever the panel, however it's done, that would be an interesting individual actually to have come on. Maybe we have someone to come on and explain to us actually how it's decided. I know I mentioned some of it, but like, what is the voting process? Who's voting? Who makes those decisions? it would be interesting to have that individual come on like before it's announced. But
it's not. So you're saying it's not kind of like the All-Star game in baseball, where everyone gets a ballot when you go to the game and you can fill out 15 of them? Come on, Lee. That's how it's supposed to be.
I don't even think there is a fan vote process in it at all. I don't think there is. I don't think there is. Does it matter what class they're in? Is top fuel? Let me put it this way. I feel that the Heisman has become a running back and quarterback award, and it's not actually reflective of who might have the best impact on a team. Does NHRA maybe show some favor toward fuel classes because fuel is what it is in the sport? I'm just throwing that out. But we'll see. Great crop of rookies.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited for the future of drag racing. Like I said, continue to tell those people that are haters, and I don't think everyone out there is haters, but if you are a hater, continue to eat your broccoli. I'm telling you, Steve told me that it will change your mindset on everything. I'm telling you, that is going to be the hashtag of Racing 2022. Just eat broccoli. And like I said it at the beginning of the show, Brian Lone said it. It does not matter how many number one qualifiers you get. What really matters is what you do on game day. So, yeah. I just, that stuck with me. That stuck with me all weekend.
It's true. It's true. Well, Sam, look, another great show. Thank you for being my co-host. Thank you, Bobby Bennett, for the platform, competitionplus.com, the place where you can believe what you read on the internet concerning all things drag racing. Sam, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, my show Between the Slicks. I've got the Frank Manzo tying bad mama jamma himself, Dan Fletcher, is on. We're going to talk about that tying win from the NHRA DeWalt Carolina Nationals. Sam, I'm done, man.
Hey, I'm proud of you. You made it through the whole show wearing that hat, a.k.a. your head cleaner. Can't call it an air cleaner. We're going to call it, now it's a tire. And Lee's out just like that. Yes, everybody, thank you to Bobby Bennett for this platform that he gives us to yak it up every week, every Tuesday, hear about drag racing and what's going on in the world of the different motorsports, especially drag racing that we love. Thank you to Doug Foley for coming on and Steve Reintjes for coming on, talking to us about the insides of what it is for Fox. We appreciate you guys. For Elon Warner for getting our guest on every week. We appreciate you for that help. Guys, Slam and Sam, me, Outlaw Performance ENT. Please go check me out on YouTube. Give me that thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out more than what you can think. I'm trying to get all of my stuff out there, just like Lee. If you go to the Monday Morning Racer, hit the bell, the notification, and hit subscribe. It helps him out more than what you even know. My show this week, I think I'm going to take it to the cruise. I want to talk to a couple of crewmen and see just the inside of what it's like to be a crew guy and the travel and the hustle and bustle in the NHRA. So I'm going to do that. That is Outlaw Performance ENT, a.k.a. In the Groove podcast on all your social media platforms. In the Groove podcast, you can listen to it while you're going down the road, hopefully to another drag race so you can help pack the stand. Again, if anyone's hating on drag racing, tell them to eat broccoli. But live here Tuesday night next week, we are going to be back talking it up. Who knows what we have in store for you, but you guys stay tuned. This is another episode of Competition Plus Power Hour, where Lee wears the air cleaners on his head and where you can believe what you read on the interweb. Signing out, y'all. Peace, love, and hair grease. I'm out.
In the race for quality, there is no finish line. Jerry Bickle Race Cars is a one-stop chassis shop for drag racing performance parts and race components. For over 50 years, Jerry Bickle Race Cars has been an essential part of racers' plans for building world champion race cars. Our parts department is stocked with every part a racer might need. Log on to jerrybickle.com for more information. We build anything with doors.